John says, Robbie, you probably have already discussed this, and I'm sorry if I'm bringing up a dead subject. Do you think we will ever get another Justice League movie or Henry Cavill as Superman? Quick answer, no. Long answer, we're definitely not going to get another Justice League movie set in the world of the current state of the DCEU or whatever. That's over. That's done. That's done. That's out. That's out. Wonder Woman's operating on their own thing. Aquaman's operating on their own thing. Flash should be operating on its own thing. We will get another Superman movie one day. It's going to be a different dude. It sucks, but it's going to be a different dude. I would love for Henry Cavill to come back. I thought he did a great job with Superman, but I never thought that he actually got to do it fully. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm afraid that Henry is going to be remembered as a lackluster Superman, but it's not because he didn't have the chops to do it, but it's because the movies didn't have the vehicle for it. Does that make sense? But they should not do another Justice League movie after that one. I'm serious. More complicated answer, we will get another Justice League movie, but it's not going to be in this iteration. Now, it is going to be, let's say, Wonder Woman and Aquaman were both successes. Shazam was a success, right? So let's just say Wonder Woman 2, Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, let's say they're successful. Now we got the danger. I think by the time that happens, the time that they would be willing to do another Justice League movie, I think the time would be past for Henry Cavill to want to come back and do it. It sucks though, because I thought he did an excellent job 2 of those 3 movies that he got to appear in. I mean, hopefully, I don't know how many people have been here for the previous 5 years, but I am a huge fan of Batman vs. Superman. I love that movie. I love that movie. Man of Steel's pretty good. So I like that one. I hate Justice League. I hate it so much. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on that. I think that the time for Henry Cavill to be Superman is done. I think it's done. I don't think I would like to see one more with him, but I mean, how many more times can you reboot Superman? You know, I mean, indefinitely, obviously, but we got to make it relevant. You got to make this. This is what I'm saying. The Superman movie has got to hit like the Superman movie hit back in '78 or whatever the hell it was. The Superman movie's got to hit like the Matrix hit in '99. The Superman movie needs to be that kind of movie. And we haven't had that movie since '78, as far as Superman goes. Now, I have unpopular opinions about Superman movies. I love Superman Returns. I love Batman vs. Superman. But I will 100% say that they've never lived up to the public's idea of Superman. And a Superman movie needs to be the biggest thing. But Superman's hard to do in the comic books, to be honest with you. Superman's a difficult character to do. So maybe that's a part of it. Henry Cavill was a great actor. I think the time has passed. I think we got to let this sit for a minute. Do your Wonder Woman movie. Do your Aquaman movie. Do your Shazam movie. Do your Batman movie. And then make another attempt at Superman. But let's try to do it. I think if you want to make a Superman movie and the obvious choice would say, like, do it with the John Byrne approach. Like, make him a little bit more grounded, a little bit more down to earth, make it a little bit more accessible, make it a little bit more grounded in reality. But at this point, I think we need something that reaches so far beyond that to make this movie hit. And I would love to have a Superman movie hit like that first Superman movie hit by Richard Donner with Christopher Reeve. And I would love to have a Superman movie hit like that. To do that, I think you got to go Grant Morrison. I'm serious as hell. Embrace the absurdity of Superman, of his world, of the sci-fi concepts of it. Embrace the ridiculousness of it. Embrace the overpowered nature of it. Embrace it and do something truly unique and bold. Now, I'm not saying Grant Morrison should write the new Superman movie. I don't know about that. I think it would get too weird, right? I would love to see that, but most people I don't think would. But I think you got to embrace that that explosive nature that really celebrates the absurdity of Superman, and also enhances and elevates the mythological importance of the character. And that's something that I think that they did in Batman versus Superman. I think they hit it, but maybe they hit the nail a little too. They just hit it too much right there, right? And it sounds like a weird thing to say, but it's a very appropriate thing to say. They hit the hammer on the nail too hard on BVS because they went so far into the Christ metaphor that they literally killed Superman. Death, birth, and death and burial and resurrection, right? So I get that, but to be honest, that's a very pedestrian and elementary take on the mythological significance of Superman. For me, that's just me. I think we need to look at more solar god figures. We need to look more towards the Jesus analogy. It works, and it seems like it would work for a Western audience, but I think other influences work for an American and Western audience. I think you could really jam in some Osiris myth. I think you can jam in some Apollo type stuff. I think you can jam in a lot of sun god stuff. It doesn't always have to be Messiah. It has to be the sun gods, sacrificial lambs. They all tie in together. I feel like this is a Teen Dog Shades night at this point. They all tie in together with the idea of the sacrificial God, right? The sacrificial lamb. He who sacrifices him. It's the hero's journey to a T, right? But with a literal sacrifice. They just hit the nail too close on the head there, but you definitely got to lean into the more mythological significance outside of just the Christ parallel, I think. But what do I know? If they put me in charge of a Superman movie, the villain would be Brainiac. Lex Luthor would be one of the main supporting characters. Luthor would be the main villain eventually. Luthor will always be there. Luthor should be in every single Superman movie. He should. But I want to see a movie where Brainiac is the threat. Luthor teams up with Brainiac. It goes wrong. He has to team up with Superman, some shit like that. But the way Superman needs to be approached, you got to pay attention. Look at All-Star Superman. Look at how Frank Quitely does his pages. Sometimes under the direction of Grant Morrison, sometimes of his own will. But every time you see Superman, you're below him. Sometimes the sun is behind him. Mythological significance, by the way. Sometimes the sun is behind him. He's something otherworldly. He's coming down. We're looking up at him. He's big. He's huge. That's what we need out of a Superman movie. We need to take this idea. We need to make it bold, and we need to make it fresh, and we need to make it work. How? We got to do what The Matrix did. You got to do what The Matrix did. The Matrix hit so hard at such a crucial moment in its time. It was groundbreaking and innovative for film and story, for just even having a new, fresh idea, albeit kind of based a lot on anime and Grant Morrison's own work. So we know, Warner Brothers, that Grant Morrison's ideas can work in a massive way in a massive time of social upheaval and change. We're approaching that, y'all. Now is the time to make a Grant Morrison-y, mythologically based, but not so much just with the Christ parallel, but going outside of that and going into all of the messianic and sun god type figures and bringing that idea of Superman that's in All-Star Superman to cinematic audiences. Now's the time. Boom. Next subject. I think they should interject more real-world issues into Superman comics. He is the symbol of hope. Alex Ross gets it. Huge S on his chest. Alex Ross gets the artistic interpretation of Superman. Even when Alex Ross shows him from above, like when he's looking down on Superman, he looks epic and majestic and above the rest of us, right? Look at Superman Peace on Earth. That is visually how you need to represent Superman. Look at Superman Peace on Earth by Alex Ross, and look at All-Star Superman by Frank Quitely. That's how you artistically need to show us cinematically Superman. We need to look at him like that figure. Get your heads out of just the Christ parallel. It's got to go beyond that. Real-world issues for Superman. My opinion on that is that Superman needs to transcend any current real-world issues, because real-world issues, there are real-world issues like hunger, poverty, famine, Things like that. Those are real-world issues that can be tackled. War. That's what Peace on Earth does so well. It's written by Paul Dini. Nobody has that. Read it. So good. It's the best out of all of those Dini Ross ones. They did a lot. They did the Batman War on Crime. They did a Shazam one. They did a Justice League one. They did a Wonder Woman one. Superman 1 is the best. It's one of the best Superman stories ever written. But what they need to do is make it be able to stand the test of time. Look back on The Matrix. It literally still addresses things that are even more so in the public consciousness and the zeitgeist right now, right? And that movie was over 20 years ago. Isn't that crazy? That's what Superman needs to do. It doesn't need it. Real world issues for real, for sure, right? But not. And there were moments of BVS where they're trying to do that hero worship. There are moments where they touch on that, but you're right. Zack Snyder had a darker vision, more influenced by Frank Miller, which leads me to answer this question here. Where was it? Yeah. John says, doesn't Frank Miller hate Superman? No. Frank Miller does not hate Superman. And you can tell that from Superman Year One. And you can even, but you can't tell that. No, I was about to say you could even tell it from, but you can't. You can't tell it from Batman Dark Knight Returns. Most people get the idea that Frank Miller hates Superman because of the treatment of Superman as the government stooge in Dark Knight Returns. Now, that was very much more, I would say that was more Frank Miller speaking out against the Reagan administration in the United States, much less so than Superman. But he took the idea of Superman and compared it to that. Like, he didn't just compare it to that. He merged it with his idea of corporate distrust, corporatist politics, that kind of shit. Regressive economic policies in Frank Miller's estimation. That's why I was nervous about Superman Year One. I didn't like Superman Year One, but Superman Year One was actually very surprising to me with Miller's vision on who Superman is and why he does what he does. He went with the anti-bully approach, which is the earliest idea you can dig up from Superman. The Superman mythos is that he's anti-bullying, right? And not in a modern kind of way or whatever, but like he's against people that are trying to downtrodden the poor, the sick, the needy, the helpless. You got to do that. You got to have some really exuberant, crazy sci-fi concepts. Embrace the absurdity of Superman and his powers. Embrace the mythological nature of Superman. And you got to do something cinematically innovative. And that's what you got to do to make Superman a relevant film again.